Today's video, we're going to be replacing the rear rotors on this Ram 1500, so let's get started. Okay, welcome back guys. So we're going to be changing the rear rotors on this. We put brand new front rotors and new pads, and we tried putting pads on the rear, but it ended up being that the rear rotors are most likely the original rotors on this, and they are causing some brake shake. So we're gonna go ahead, we'll get started. I'll show you guys the parts we picked up and I'll link that down below, and then we'll get working. We just finished replacing the front wheel bearings as well. So if you guys are into Rams and all that kind of content, maintaining them, all that stuff, definitely hit that subscribe button because we're always doing something related with vehicles and cars. Not too much going on over there, but we've got these rotors. I'll link these down below. What we're gonna end up doing is, before, a lot of these rotors will come just bare metal. And you guys remember on the front rotors, we ended up painting all here up to our braking surface just so that it's not all rusty. Right now it's super easy to do. It's off, it's clean, and we can go ahead. There is usually a little bit of grease, as you can probably see on my hand, on rotors so that they don't rust while they're sitting on the shelf. So we will have to brake clean both our brake surface and where we're going to end up painting as well. What you can do is, you'll see here, it's kind of pretty much already got our template. So I'm going to cut that circle there, and then we can pretty much drop it over top of the rotor, and it pretty much has that hole there, and we can go ahead and paint that. So let's do it. And there we go. We've got our template. So we're gonna go ahead, clean it off, and spray it with our infamous Krylon rust paint. There we go, she's all cleaned off with brake clean, and we'll go ahead and paint this. Well, there we go guys. We got this one and that one drying, so let's go ahead and take off the old stuff. Okay, so just make sure you have your wheels chalked depending on where your vehicle's at, because the back axle is what keeps this thing from rolling around. So let's go ahead, we'll get the wheel off and we'll get in there. Make sure your vehicle is supported with a safety stand. We also have a jack there just for extra precaution. So once we have the wheel off, you're gonna see this. So the truck has over 100K. These are almost guaranteed to be the original rotors. You can see, because it has a factory little clip on here. When people replace them, they don't often, you know, put a new one of these on, and if they do put the existing one on, it's not going to be in perfect shape like this one. So what we're going to do, we're going to retract our piston. So we're going to put a pry bar in here, and then we'll go on to the next step. So now we'll go ahead and we'll take our pry bar and we'll retract the piston. So since we already have brand new brake pads, we technically don't have to remove these two 10 mils. We can keep the caliper on the bracket, and we can just remove the 221. So let's do that now. Make sure you support your caliper, and we can also slide off these little clips that hold the ABS wire, just so that you don't run into any tension issues with your caliper. And you can either hang your caliper or find somewhere to support it. You can put it up here if you'd like, right over by where your bump stop goes. It can sit up there out of the way while we go to the next step. So next up, a few things. If you're in the south, you probably don't have any seizing issues. If you're somewhere else where there's road salt and all that stuff, you might have a bit more of a tough time to break your rotor off of your hub here. But either way, we got to remove this clip. But you guys got to remember, there is drums inside. So what happens is, often there's a little lip. It'll, especially like this, if it's been on here for a while, the parking brake shoes will have worn a lip on the inside, and we'll have to, it still has a drum brake mechanism in this, we'll have to retract that mechanism, which you'll see here on the back side. So this is the port to get to if we have to retract our drum brakes. So hopefully we don't have to. First things first, we'll take this off and we'll see what we got. So you guys can try to save this thing if you want. You can try to spin it off if you've got some patience and you want to unscrew this thing all the way. Really up to you guys. Either way, you can get this thing off. Like I said, either you can cut it off or kind of do what I'm doing here. A little bit of lifting the tab and unscrewing. So there's that thing. Now comes the fun part. We'll try to break it free with a hammer from the backside, and we'll break this free here, and then we'll see if the drums are gonna prevent it from coming off. So you can see there we've got some movement, and if we get lucky, which it looks like we did, we can remove it just like that. Okay, so lucky there wasn't any lip really on the inside like I was mentioning, even though our actual rotors have a worn in groove and you can see a lot of heat marks on them, which is why we're replacing them. But here's the shoes. Looks like we still have plenty of shoe here for our parking brake, so no issues there. Now we can go ahead and we'll put our new rotor on. So I've already cleaned our entire rotor with brake clean. So we'll just slide that over like that. If you still have this and you didn't destroy it, you can throw it on if you want. Just kind of holds the rotor in place while you're taking off your caliper whenever you're servicing it, that type of thing. Next up, we'll grab our caliper. And since we retracted the piston, it's going to slide over nicely. So the factory does put blue Loctite on these, so you can probably put some on as well. Okay, so we got our caliper bolts all tight down to spec. So we got lucky on this one, but if you didn't get lucky, let me go ahead and show you what you would do. So if you didn't get lucky, here's what you would do. So this rubber plug just comes out and you pull it out, pry it out, whatever. And inside here, hopefully you guys can maybe see a little bit of what's going on in there. It's kind of a dark hole, but essentially there's gonna be a little cog wheel. And what you're gonna do is there's a little latch and a wheel that has teeth on it. So depending on whether it's driver's side or passenger side, you're gonna turn it the opposite way. But what you'll do is put your screwdriver in like this, and you'll feel around for the cog wheel. So right here is where the teeth are. And I'll show you guys in a second when we have the other side off, since we're gonna switch the other side. I'll show you the mechanism from the opposite end. We'll see if maybe we might have to adjust the other one to get it off. I think we got lucky on this side. Here we go on this side, you guys. So we got the caliper supported over here. ABS sensor wires out of the way. And let's give this one a couple taps and see if she comes off after we remove this clip. Okay guys, so here's what this looks like. On this one, it's actually the spring that kind of keeps it from spinning around. So see this little star wheel right there? So what you do is you access this hole through there so it retracts. So you pretty much like that, you come in with your screwdriver and you turn this wheel like you can see I'm doing here. So you turn that wheel, and what you're doing is you're retracting your shoes. So it's kind of finicky, I won't lie, but yeah, you're just turning that wheel, retracting your shoes so you can get this off. But like I said, you got to watch out because it will freeze itself to here. So if pretty much the way you can tell is once you unstick it from your hub, your rotor, if you see it kind of comes out maybe 1/4 of an inch and it stops and it seems like something's kind of springy or spongy is holding it on, more than likely your pads are grabbing the inside of the rotor or drum and you're kind of moving the whole assembly back and forth. So if you, once you break it free, if you still have it, like you can feel it's loose but it won't come off, most likely you're going to be grabbing on your shoes and you'll have to turn that little star wheel from that access port on the back. So for demonstration purposes, I ended up showing you guys that star wheel moving, but make sure when you put it on that your rotor still does turn. If you put it on, you're fighting to put it on and you got it locked up, you'll probably have to retract that star wheel. But parking brake, new parking brake shoes are a totally different video, but yeah, it's still good. You know, it goes on and off, slides on and off good, so we know that the shoes aren't grabbing. Like I said, it is a tight fit on the hub, but she's on. We can reassemble our brake caliper and everything and put this back together. So everything's on and tight. One other thing is make sure you reattach on both sides your ABS wire to your brake line so that everything is held up properly, and we're done. And one last thing, I cannot stress this enough, pump your brakes, you guys. Look, all the way to the floor, almost all the way to the floor. So you definitely want to make sure you pump your brakes so you can get your pistons back where they are supposed to be, so that's, you're good to go. All right, and that is it, you guys. That's how to replace the rear rotors. I'll combine that as well. I have a video above of changing the rear pads. Depending on what you're doing, in most cases you'll be doing them together, but at the same time, usually people can replace pads and run the same rotors, and not have an issue, but these ones were warped in the rear, and we came to find out that way. So if you guys found this helpful or informative, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Check out the other videos on the channel, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys on the next one.